Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dot to Dot. Today, I'm going to talk about the money pit and maybe what it was at one time, other than a depository for a treasure. Well, at least it's part of a depository for a treasure. And I'm going to go through some events. I'm going to show you some things that you may not have already known. And I will start with my presentation here. And we'll go on slideshow. So this is going to talk about the money pit from 1849 to 1897. And I'm going to take this event by event. And I'm going to show you what possibly the money pit is. Now, the first event was 50 years after the discovery of the money pit in 1895, called the Truro Company, which started up in 1848. And one of the things they did, other than discover the flood tunnel at Smith's Cove, they bored 5 holes into the money pit. And the first hole was a failure. They lost the core sampler. And the second hole, they struck the platform, which was previous for the Onslow Company, which was the original company that found the money pit. They found the 98-foot platform that was found with the crowbar in 1795. The drilling auger went through this upper platform, which was made of 5 inches of spruce wood. And remember, spruce wood is the platforms. Then a 12-inch gap, 4 inches of oak wood, 22 inches of loose metal, and 8 inches of oak wood again. This was thought to be the bottom of 2 treasure chests or barrels, containers, one stacked upon the other, and the next on top of the next between 2 platforms. So they're thinking that these things that they went through are treasure chests. Then they drilled through 22 inches of loose metal, 4 inches of oak wood, and 6 inches of spruce. Remember, spruce is the platforms. Then into 7 feet of clay without striking anything else. That's pretty much where they ended. But they did a third hole. The same platform was struck again at 98 feet. Passing through, the auger fell 18 inches, so there was nothing for 18 inches. Then it came into contact with the side of a cask or a barrel. On withdrawing the auger, the oak splinters, such as those from the side of a barrel, stave, and also they found coconut fiber. The reported distance between these 2 upper and lower platforms was within 6 feet of each other. 3 links of metal resembling an ancient gold watch chain were also brought up by the auger. The 2 final holes were finally drilled near the inside of the walls of the pit, and 3 pieces of copper wire were also brought up from the 5th hole. So we can see that they drilled through a spruce wood at 98 feet, and they drilled through another spruce wood at 104 feet, and then 7 feet of clay. In between these 2 spruce platforms, they found wood, oak wood, loose metal, copper wire, cask or barrel wood, and coconut fiber. Now we know that the flood tunnel was coming in somewhere around there because we know that the water was coming up prior to 1849 at around 98 feet. So the next people up were the Oak Island Association, 1861 to that should be 1864, and a tunnel leading from the west shaft, number 8. Now, shaft number 8 is, and I'm not quite sure what's happening between shaft 8 and shaft 6. They have the similar events being recorded. So one is saying that shaft 8 is the real cave-in shaft, or shaft 6 is mistakenly. I don't know if they're the same event or two separate events. History is very fuzzy on this, and I know that probably Rick would say that shaft 6 is the one that caved in, because he often says that on the show, but I don't know which one it is. But this is the event of, according to this website, shaft 8. And what happened in shaft 8 is they tunneled towards the money pit from the west, which was shaft 8, 17 feet long. And the tunnel was 4 feet high and 3 feet wide, and it was blocked with clay. And 2 men were sent in to clear it halfway through the tunnel when they heard a tremendous crash in the money pit, and they barely escaped being caught by a rush of mud which followed them into the west pit and filled up with 7 feet of mud in less than 3 minutes. The resulting crash was the upper platform of the money pit at 98 feet dropped to a lower level, and the bottom platform dropping from 88 feet to about 102 feet, or a total of 14 feet. So in this event, apparently they're tunneling towards the money pit from the west, which is shaft 8. They come close to the money pit and they break through the clay, and all this water and mud started coming through. And then a crash in the money pit allowed all this, basically the platforms and everything, to just drop down 14 feet. Now listen to this. This would suggest that the lower platform on which the chest rested, in other words, this chest right here, which used to be up at around 104 feet, remember, 98 feet and 104 feet, this was now, it would drop to 100, it was now resting at 119 feet. So it dropped from here to here with an estimated of 10,000 feet of lumber, which also fell, with some of the cribbing of the money pit, resulting in a crash expelling a black oak timber of considerable girth, 3.5 feet in length, and also it showed a evidence of being cut and hewn, chamfered, sawed, or bored, and a part of a bottom of a yellow keg was also recovered from the money pit, along with a piece of juniper with the bark on it cut at each end, and a spruce slab with a mining auger hole in it. So after all this crashed, they started finding some oak wood and spruce wood and parts of kegs. So could it be that when this fell from up here all the way down to here, that some of this was retrieved because it floated up to the top, or they found it, when they cleaned it out or something like that. But a lot of this probably got sucked into the cave if the water came down and ejected it both up and back into the cave where shaft 8 was. So this is the event, and this is where the money pit ends up in the end of 1864. So now we come to the Oak Island Treasure Company, which is 1893 to 1900. And around July of 1897, a crew of drillers started boring into the bottom of the southern edge of the money pit, which had previously been excavated to 113 feet. So we're talking about this hole right here, which is on the south side of the money pit. Okay. The first hole was bored through at 100. The first hole was bored through wood at 126 feet. So here's the drill, and it's going through piece of wood at 126 feet. Immediately below the drill, the bit struck iron, which it couldn't get through. So they're hitting this iron, which I think may have been an iron spike or a cribbing spike, and they couldn't get through it. So they changed out the drill bit from a 3-inch to a 1-inch, and they put it down the same hole, and they were able to get past the iron spike. And then it went through blue puddled clay at about 154 feet. So here it hit puddled blue clay. At 154 feet, they struck what they thought was sandstone, but it was later determined to be cement. So here's the event that they're talking about, going through the so-called cement. And we've heard this many times on the Curse of Oak Island about this cement. This cement was only 7 inches thick. And why I'm saying only, we'll see why later. And underneath it was 5 inches of solid oak. So we had 5 inches of solid oak. And then the drill bit was replaced in order to bring up samples. And just below the wood was a 2-inch gap. I don't have it named here, but there's a 2-inch gap there. And then, according to Chappell, the auger rested on some substance, a character of which no person would attempt to state. So there's some unknown substance on top of this. Now, I don't have it in the text here, but I'll tell you what they found afterwards. From 155 to 158 feet, they ran into what they basically similar to what they ran into back in the Truro Company at 104 feet. 198 to 104 feet was the loose metal thing. They thought that they were drilling through coins, or thought they were drilling through gold ingots, because the drill would come back up and it wouldn't be dulled. It wouldn't be, so it was still sharp. But I think, if it wasn't gold, I would think they would see gold on it. It could have been small stones or gravel, because there's another event that they talk about, and I don't have it written here, but they actually were at about 111 feet, and they broke through some stones, which were described as river stones and gravel, and they broke through that, and water came out. So that was another event. And so the construction materials of the money pit were obviously gravel and small stones, this blue clay, and wood, and this cement kind of substance, and some other unknown substance, which could have been, who knows, pitch or tar or something of that nature. So the second drill attempt was a 3-inch casing, okay, and it was withdrawn, and a second hole into the bottom of the money pit. So this one is going into the money pit, where the other one was to the south of the money pit, just to the south edge. This time the drill struck wood at 122 feet, and then it went through 7 feet. Remember, before it was 7 inches of cement. Now they're going through 7 feet of cement, from 154 feet to 161. And one side of the drill also encountered wood from about 154 to 158. So this drill here is skimming along some wood from 154 to 158 feet. So it's within, it comes up to the top of the cement. I know it doesn't show it here, but it should come up to basically where they started hitting cement. And in between here was this wood that they didn't, that was hitting the one side of the drill bit. So below the cement, the drill was driven through more puddled clay. And here's the interesting part. And then it hit what appeared to be an iron plate at 171 feet. Chappell said a magnet was run through the material and it was loaded up with iron filings, thereby producing conclusive proof that there was iron we had been drilling on at 171 feet. And this was the end of their drilling explorations. So at the bottom of this was a iron plate. So when we look at this, we look at there's a wood platform in the money pit at 122 feet. Then we have encounters of blue clay. Now, they have encounters of blue clay from 130 to 151 feet and 160 to 171 feet. So there's blue clay that's in between, that's sandwiching this cement and wood. And here's my depiction of what I believe it is. And to me, it looks like a plug. It's a giant plug that has been waterproofed with clay and made of cement and wood, probably supported by gravel and beams on the outside here. And at the bottom of it is a big iron plate. Now, I think this iron plate is a plug to encapsulate the water that is in this channel below. And this is basically 171 feet. So there's possibly, this is the depth of C1. There's possibly a water channel that is going underneath the money pit. And the money pit was used most likely to dig this channel underneath, this flood tunnel. So here's a recap of what is found at the money pit. Obviously, we can see that this container that used to be way up here at 98 feet to 104 feet is probably just remnants of cleanup of the people that were working there. They threw it in there. The collapse, I don't know what caused the collapse, but at one point there must have been some kind of a void, or there was water beneath the clay, the 7 feet of clay that allowed it to drop down. I can't explain the whole event of the 118-foot cave-in, the 118-foot depth cave-in, but it's certainly interesting to know that this was built purposely with some kind of construction. So when we look at the ONTR schematic, and this is, that has to do with the vault theory here. If we look at this, we see, what looks like to be the money pit. And we also see another thing here. And this is something I know I've been saying before, that I think that the finger drains are a relief valve. But if you notice, there's wood drawn in here, and it looks like it's approximately, if we were going to call this the 90-foot stone, it would be approximately about 123 feet. So this was obviously, the Smith Cove was obviously for some kind of a protection or a booby trap in order to keep people from digging down in here any further and disrupting the plug that was that is basically holding the pressure of the flood tunnel system and not allowing it to escape out. So that's my presentation there. I'd like to take you now to Google Earth a little bit. And here is the flood tunnel system that I've described in the past. I'm basically looking at this now and thinking, what an extraordinary feat. It's almost really unbelievable if they were going to basically construct something of this magnitude. And I'm working on an alternate, and I'll share that with you. And this flood tunnel system would be more of the literal going with the Rochefoucauld map. This would be more of the original literal flood tunnel system with the hole under the trapdoor here and the valve. And I'm leaning towards thinking that these landmarks out here are virtual, and they were virtual in order to find where to head underground. It was a geometric puzzle, so to speak. But this is the alternate that I'm working on. And also, oh yes, and if you notice, I am talking a little bit more now about the Eye of the Swamp and its involvement into the flood tunnel system, because as you know, we know that the Eye of the Swamp had a circle of rings or rocks around it. It also had blue puddle. It also had that blue clay in it. And so, that's something that really intrigues me, that the similar materials at the Money Pit were used at the Eye of the Swamp. And also we have I have to put them up here. We also have the void that was just found. And we also have the two holes that were found to have C1 at 171 feet. And this L15 was at 154 to 150, I believe, 140 to 150 feet. So anyway, I'm working on this and looking into the possibilities of this flood tunnel system. The reason why this also makes a little more sense as far as scale, but also instead of these being relief valves, like I was saying before, and that the source of water was coming from the basin here. Now, when I think about a basin, I think about water going into it, not coming out of it. And it makes more sense that the basin would be where the water ends up. Remember, we only have to displace enough water in order to lower the vault. The volume of water does not have to be the whole volume of water in all these flood tunnels. It just has to be enough to lower it to the point of where the vault rests on its supports. So we have the basin here, and I'm also thinking that all the mechanisms that the valve and the hole under the trapdoor are possibly what is called the barrage. In other words, the dam. So this is what holds the water in to the system. And this was on the landmark map. If you remember, the landmark map is the basin and the barrage, which they do not have the crossed S's, which means they're not geometric virtual points. They are real. And so this is where the basin and the barrage, these are the two pointers for it. And there's Ian there ready to get his head chopped off. And it ends up in this hole, actually. So pretty interesting. So that's what I have for you today. Like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you later.